It was a seemingly ordinary night in Hollywood. The lights were bright, the stage was set, and Jimmy Kimmel's audience was buzzing with excitement. Rumors had circulated all day about a major guest appearance, someone whose presence alone could shift headlines and stir debates across every political and economic spectrum. At exactly 8:37 p.m., the curtain drew back and the crowd erupted into a thunderous applause. Elon Musk, entrepreneur, engineer, provocateur, strode onto the stage with his usual nonchalant swagger. Kimmel, known for his witty banter and progressive leanings, welcomed Musk with a smirk. "So, Elon," he began, "I hear you've got something controversial to say tonight. Should I be scared?" Musk chuckled, taking a seat. "Only if you're afraid of facts," he said, leaning forward, a glint in his eye. "Because tonight, I'm going to say something that's probably going to ruffle some feathers, especially on your side of the aisle." Kimmel raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued. "Well, consider me, and all of America, on the edge of our seats." Musk wasted no time. "I'm here to say that President Trump's recent international tariff hikes are not only justified, they're strategically brilliant, and I have the data to prove it." The crowd fell into a murmur of mixed reactions. Was Musk seriously supporting Trump's controversial move to hike tariffs on international goods? The very policy being lambasted by economists and pundits across mainstream outlets. Kimmel tried to keep the mood light. Wait, you mean to say you, the guy who builds high-tech rockets and futuristic cars, are siding with Trump on tariffs?" "Absolutely," Musk replied without hesitation. "And it's not about politics. It's about numbers. It's about American innovation. And it's about survival." The audience grew quiet, sensing that this wasn't just another celebrity interview. Musk wasn't there to joke. He was there to deliver a message. He continued, "Let me ask you something, Jimmy. Why is it that the United States, the largest economy in the world, allows foreign competitors to flood our markets with cheap, subsidized goods? Goods often produced in countries with little regard for labor laws, environmental impact, or ethical manufacturing." Jimmy replied cautiously, "Well, that's the whole debate, isn't it? Free trade keeps prices low and consumers benefit. But at what cost?" Musk countered. "America loses jobs. American factories close. We outsource more and more until we're nothing but a consumer nation dependent on others for basic essentials. What Trump's doing is forcing a reset, a strategic pause, and he's giving us a chance to rebuild from within." The mood shifted palpably. Viewers at home were now leaning in. Whether they loved or hated Trump, hearing Musk back him up on tariffs was not something they'd expected to see on a late-night talk show. Kimmel blinked. "Okay, but doesn't that hurt the average American in the short term? Higher prices, less availability." Musk nodded. "It does, but so does chemotherapy. It's painful, it's costly, but sometimes it's necessary to kill a deeper problem. We've become addicted to cheap imports, Jimmy. Trump is breaking that addiction." He reached into his blazer and pulled out a sheet of paper. "Want some numbers? Here, between 2001 and 2016, over 5 million manufacturing jobs were lost in the U.S. A good chunk of those losses are linked directly to trade imbalances with China and other low-cost producers. And here's the kicker, over 60,000 factories closed. That's not a blip, that's economic hemorrhaging." Jimmy looked at the stats. He wasn't prepared for this level of research. Musk wasn't riffing. He was presenting a case. The segment went long. Producers scrambled behind the scenes to adjust the show's schedule. Elon wasn't done. He had more to reveal, and not just numbers, but behind-the-scenes truths about global trade deals, media narratives, and lobbyist influence. "Trump's not always eloquent," Musk admitted. "But on this, he's dead right. And if we ignore what he's trying to do, we might not get another chance to reclaim our industrial backbone." Kimmel tried to interject with humor, but the weight of the topic kept things serious. The audience was silent, processing the idea of Elon Musk, a known disruptor, aligning himself with Trump's protectionist agenda. As the segment closed, Kimmel simply said, "Well, this is definitely not what I expected tonight," and Elon smiled. That's the problem, Jimmy. Nobody expects truth in late night anymore. Jimmy Kimmel shifted in his seat as the crew quickly brought over a monitor and connected Elon's USB drive. The screen behind them flickered to life, displaying a sleek data dashboard with Musk's unmistakable minimalist design. "We're going to keep this simple," Musk began. "I want every American watching this to see what I've been seeing for the last 2 years." The first slide was a bar graph, bold and unambiguous. Title: Jobs Lost to Foreign Manufacturing, 2001-2024. The numbers were staggering. Over 6.5 million jobs lost in the last 2 decades, with major spikes during trade deals favoring low tariff access to foreign goods. The steepest climb? 2012 to 2020. Kimmel furrowed his brow. Wait, are those job losses directly tied to trade agreements? Correct, Musk said. And that's not just my analysis, that's from Department of Commerce data, cross-referenced with supply chain audits from my own companies. When America imports cheaper goods from countries that heavily subsidize their own industries or exploit labor, we undercut our own economy. He clicked to the next slide. Title: China's Industrial Subsidies versus U.S. Manufacturing Wages. The numbers were eye-opening. China's government subsidized its manufacturing sector by over $250 billion in the last 5 years alone. Meanwhile, U.S. manufacturers faced rising wages, healthcare costs, and regulatory burdens. How do we expect small American factories to compete with this? Musk asked. We're not in a free market. We're in an uneven fight. Kimmel looked genuinely stunned. But Elon, I thought you were all about globalism, about building a connected future. I am, Musk replied. But globalism without fairness is just a race to the bottom. We can't call it free trade when one side's playing poker and the other's running a casino. The audience murmured. You could feel the shift. Not everyone agreed, but everyone was listening. Then Musk went deeper. He showed how American innovation in electric vehicles, aerospace, and AI had been repeatedly copied or reverse-engineered by foreign competitors who faced no repercussions. In 2022, China filed more AI patents than the US, he explained. But do you know where most of the base research came from? US universities and companies. We're feeding the machine that's outcompeting us. Kimmel interjected. Okay, so you're saying Trump's tariffs are like what? A shield? Exactly, Musk said. Tariffs aren't about punishing other countries. They're about rebalancing, about giving our companies a chance to grow, compete, and lead without being undercut. But the media's been calling it protectionism. Isn't that a dirty word? Kimmel asked. Musk smiled. Only if you're the one being protected against. The crowd laughed, but it was thoughtful laughter. Then came the bombshell. Look, Jimmy, Musk continued, I don't agree with everything President Trump does, but on protecting American industry, I stand with him. Not because he's a Republican, not because of politics, but because if we don't act now, we're going to wake up in a world where we no longer build anything. He paused, looking directly into the camera. America needs to stop being afraid of being self-reliant. Tariffs aren't walls, they're tools. Strategic tools. And Trump's finally had the guts to use them. The audience broke into applause. Even Kimmel, usually a staunch Trump critic, nodded. Well, that's a hell of a take, Elon. Musk leaned back, calm and composed. Sometimes the truth isn't popular, but it's still the truth. By now, Elon Musk's presence on Jimmy Kimmel Live had become more than an interview, it was a political earthquake. Social media exploded in real time. Twitter, or X, as Musk preferred to call it now, lit up with hashtags like hashtag Elon backs Trump, hashtag tariff truth, and hashtag KimmelShock. Millions of Americans watching from their homes were stunned to hear one of the world's most progressive innovators defending a traditionally conservative policy, and doing it unapologetically. Back in the studio, Jimmy sat back in his chair, clearly off script. You realize, Kimmel said, you've just turned the entire late-night formula upside down, right? Celebrities are supposed to bash Trump. You just defended one of his most controversial moves on my stage. Musk smirked. Well, Jimmy, Maybe the problem is that late night has become predictable. I'm not here to play team sports. I'm here to fix things. The audience clapped again, this time more confidently. It was a rare moment when entertainment, economics, and raw honesty collided in front of a nationwide audience. Jimmy cleared his throat and looked at the next card the producers had handed him. So, Elon, you've mentioned something behind the scenes about a meeting you had with President Trump recently. Care to tell us what that was about? Now it was Musk's turn to lean in. Yes, he said calmly. I met with President Trump 3 weeks ago in the West Wing. It was a short meeting, just under an hour, but we talked exclusively about one thing: rebuilding America's industrial infrastructure. The crowd gasped. Kimmel blinked in disbelief. You're saying you're consulting with the president? Unofficially, yes. He asked for my insight on how tariffs might affect not just old industries, but emerging ones: AI, battery tech, advanced manufacturing. And I told him exactly what I'm telling you tonight. Tariffs, if applied intelligently, can be the springboard for an American renaissance. Jimmy paused. And what was Trump's reaction? Musk grinned. He said, and I quote, "Elon, you may be the only billionaire I know who actually gets it." Laughter erupted in the audience, but Musk didn't laugh. He was serious. This isn't about partisanship, Musk said. It's about sovereignty. Do you know how many electric car parts we import from China, components critical to Teslas, Fords, even military vehicles? If those supply chains are cut, America stalls. Jimmy rubbed his face, stunned. So, you're saying the tariffs are a national security issue too? Absolutely, Musk answered. We've offshored not only our manufacturing, but our ability to defend ourselves. Our satellites, our sensors, our circuits, they're all vulnerable. President Trump might sound brash, but his instinct is right. And we ignore it at our peril. The camera panned to audience members whose expressions had gone from skeptical to contemplative. Even those who traditionally leaned liberal were nodding. This wasn't a partisan talking point, it was a wake-up call. And yet, Jimmy added, most of the media is treating these tariffs like a disaster. Musk's smile faded. That's because many of the corporations behind the media profit from globalization. Do you think the networks that take ad money from companies importing goods want tariffs? Of course not. But the American worker, they need them. He turned again toward the camera. If you're a factory worker in Ohio, a machinist in Michigan, or a welder in Pennsylvania, this message is for you. Your job matters. Your industry matters. And America is finally standing up for you. A round of applause followed, this time spontaneous and powerful. Elon Musk had done the unthinkable. He had delivered a message that crossed political lines, anchored in numbers and conviction. Even Kimmel, caught between his politics and the truth being spoken, simply said, "Well, I didn't expect to agree with you tonight, Elon. But I can't argue with what you've laid out." Musk looked into the audience once more and said, "It's time to stop thinking left or right. Start thinking long-term." As the segment entered its final stretch, Jimmy Kimmel leaned in again, voice low and serious. "Okay, Elon, I have to ask. What aren't we being told? If all these facts are this clear, why are so many people in Washington, in media, even in tech, so afraid of these tariffs?" Musk didn't hesitate. "Because it threatens a system that benefits the top and cripples the bottom," he said. "Tariffs mean accountability. And accountability means a lot of well-connected people start losing their grip on the global chessboard." The audience listened in absolute silence. "You want to know who really hates tariffs?" Musk asked, locking eyes with the crowd. "Multinational corporations who've spent decades outsourcing labor to boost profits. Financial institutions who've bet against American manufacturing. Politicians who've taken lobbyist money to keep the global supply chain exactly as it is." Kimmel raised an eyebrow. "Are you saying there's a coordinated effort to keep America dependent on foreign production?" Musk nodded. 100%. He gestured toward the studio camera. "I'm talking about think tanks funded by offshore corporations, media companies who spin fear around tariffs, and tech giants who quietly offload sensitive manufacturing to regions we have no control over. And then there's the lobbying. $3.7 billion spent just last year to influence trade policy in Washington. Gasps were heard around the room. That's not capitalism, Musk continued. That's manipulation disguised as progress. Kimmel looked visibly rattled. So how do we fix it? What's the path forward? Elon responded with the same certainty that made him famous. We bring back incentive-based tariffs. Not blanket punishments, but targeted hikes that make it cheaper to build in America than to import low-quality knockoffs. We invest in robotics and AI, not to replace jobs, but to make American labor more competitive. We rebuild rare earth processing plants, battery gigafactories, semiconductor hubs, all on U.S. soil. Won't that take decades? Kimmel asked. Not if we start now, Elon said firmly. We've already wasted 20 years listening to bureaucrats and pundits. We've got the brainpower, the resources, the capital. We just need political will. A murmur of "he's right" could be heard from the audience. Then Elon revealed something even more unexpected. Let me tell you something that didn't make the headlines, he said. 3 weeks ago, during that meeting with President Trump, we talked about a pilot initiative, a joint task force between the White House, private innovators, and state governors to create 6 new industrial hubs across the Midwest and South. Zones where tariff-protected supply chains could grow American-made goods at scale. Kimmel was shocked. Wait, that's real. It's happening, Elon confirmed. And if we can weather the short-term pain of this tariff reset, we can reclaim something we've lost: dignity in American labor. The camera panned to audience members, many of whom were now wiping away tears or clapping with renewed energy. People talk about the American dream, Musk said, his voice softer now. But a dream without production, without real value creation, is just an illusion. Trump's tariffs are the alarm clock, and it's time we all woke up. Kimmel had no snarky comeback, no punchline. He looked at Musk, then back at the audience and simply said, you know, for all the late-night jokes we make, maybe it's time we took this more seriously. Elon gave a rare smile. It's not about agreeing with everything Trump says. It's about seeing that, just this once, he's doing what presidents are supposed to do: protect American interests. And with that, the final applause of the evening echoed through the studio. But this wasn't the sound of entertainment. It was the sound of revelation. By the time Jimmy Kimmel's show ended, the episode had already gone viral. Clips of Elon Musk's straight-shooting breakdown of the tariff situation were being shared across platforms, not just by conservatives, but by moderates, independents, even curious liberals who couldn't ignore the gravity of what he said. The segment where Elon said, "Trump's tariffs are the alarm clock, and it's time we all woke up," was replayed on every major network, even the ones that usually distance themselves from Trump's policies. Pundits scrambled to reframe the narrative, but the truth had already seeped into the minds of millions. It was a fire that couldn't be put out. The next morning, #MuskOnTariffs was the #1 trend on X. Cable news reluctantly dedicated entire hours to discuss what just happened on late-night television. Fox News hailed the moment as a watershed alignment of innovation and patriotism. CNN, while skeptical, acknowledged that Musk raised deeply relevant economic concerns backed by irrefutable data. MSNBC called it one of the most bizarre yet thought-provoking crossovers in recent memory. And most importantly, the American people were talking. In Michigan, a factory foreman named Roger hadn't watched Kimmel in years. He thought it was all Hollywood noise. But when his son showed him a clip of Musk's appearance, he froze. Roger had spent the last decade watching jobs disappear from his town. His wife had to pick up part-time work just to keep their home. Now, for the first time in years, someone had gone on national television and explained it all without political spin. In Ohio, a 28-year-old steelworker named Jasmine posted, "I didn't vote for Trump last time. I probably won't next time either." But Elon Musk just laid it out plain. Tariffs ain't politics. They're survival. In California, even some Silicon Valley engineers, who normally rolled their eyes at Trump, began circulating internal memos. If Musk's numbers are accurate, we're entering a new age of American industrial strategy. The shift was real. A tectonic plate beneath the country's consciousness had moved. Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., The White House communications team scrambled to get ahead of the wave. President Trump, never one to miss a moment, took to Truth Social with a fiery post. Elon Musk gets it. He's smart. He's real. And he understands America first means American jobs first. The fake media will cry about it. But the people heard the truth. We're bringing the factories back. Hashtag Trump tariffs, hashtag Made in USA, United States flexed biceps. By midday, the Trump administration had already scheduled a press conference. Standing beside trade advisors and 2 state governors, Trump declared, "Thanks to innovators like Elon Musk, Americans are finally seeing what the globalists tried to hide. We will no longer surrender our factories, our future, or our freedom. Tariffs are not a punishment. They are a promise. A promise to put you, the American worker, first." And in that same press conference, Trump officially announced the Industrial Revival Task Force, confirming Elon's revelation from the Kimmel Show. Reporters pressed for details. Would Musk have an official role? Would Silicon Valley come aboard? The answer came via a single Musk post on X. "Not doing this for politics. Doing this because America still matters. Let's build." Weeks passed, but the ripples of that night on Jimmy Kimmel Live continued to spread. Suddenly, the conversation wasn't just about whether tariffs worked. It was about how to use them to rebuild a nation. Colleges began organizing student forums around the Musk tariff doctrine. Economists reevaluated long-standing assumptions about globalism and trade liberalization. Small business owners began rethinking their sourcing strategies. And most importantly, Americans, average, everyday citizens, felt seen. In one final moment of irony, even Jimmy Kimmel, back behind his desk a week later, addressed the viral moment. He said with a grin, "Well, folks, I invited Elon Musk on to talk about rockets, cars, and Twitter. Instead, he gave us a masterclass in economics and maybe, just maybe, woke us all up a little. Doesn't mean I'm voting for Trump, but hey, credit where credit's due." The audience laughed. But this time it wasn't cynical. It was hopeful.